Hello everyone. Good morning or good afternoon as per your respective time zones. On behalf of entire Mastek Managed Services team, we would like to welcome you all to 23B Finance Advisory webinar session. This important session is to keep you fully synchronized with new features and functionalities as a part of this quarterly release which Oracle provides. My name is Komal Abel and I am an operations executive at Managed Services team Mastek. Today, I am your host for this session. I am glad to introduce my colleague Akshita Nikte, who is a part of our vast finance team at Mastek. Today, she will take us through all the cloud financial updates for 23B quarterly release. Today's session is planned for around 45 to 60 minutes. And we will also make sure that we leave some time to answer all your questions you have. We also have panelists available Isha Shah, so you can ask any questions through chat or question panel. Before we move to agenda, let's have a quick look at the important disclaimer. We would like to convey you our approach towards the Oracle updates in a very simpler method. We will be taking you through vital analysis of 23B updates done by our experts, which will help you in incorporating new features and update easily into the system. Also, we will sync you on any. It's good to have an interactive session, so please do ask questions. You can ask questions through chat or question panel. We will answer them at the end of session. In case if we run out of time, we will make sure to respond you back by connecting you at a later stage to answer all your questions. This is to give you a glimpse of how we have crafted the structure of this session. List of new features coming in 23B. Detailing on features so you get brief understanding on what new features are all about. Next one is what are the business benefits and the important takeaway from you as a decision maker. There are 4 components where we have done in-depth analysis of features which we are going to present to you. First one is impact level analysis, which demonstrates the impact on the end of the user. If low impact, then regression testing can be avoided. If it's high, then we need to opt for regression testing. Second one is, which is we all are aware that there are some features which are by default auto-enabled by Oracle, and there are some which we need to opt for. Third one highlights the nature of the feature. There would be certain configurations which may require or some can be used without any changes. Last one is quick win. This term we use to simply convey that what is ready to use by investing minimum amount of time and what requires significant amount of time and effort to make the use of this feature. Now before we hand over to Akshita, we would like to know with the help of a quick poll which industry does your organization belong to. This will help us in creating more fruitful webinars content moving forward. Launching the poll on your screens now. Request you all to please participate. Thank you everyone for participating. We will be closing the poll now. Hi Akshita, I will be handing over to you now. Please unmute yourself and begin the session. Thank you.
Thank you, Komal. Hello, everyone. Good morning or good evening as per your respective time zones. I am Akshita Nikte, a part of UKCS finance team, and I will be taking you through the new features which Oracle has introduced through this quarterly release 23B. Let's first of all take a quick view on the statistics of these new features. As we see, there are 23 new financial features in this release, wherein 13 are quick wins, 5 are opt-ins, and 5 are not quick wins. That means these 5 has more configurations or more regression testing needed. Let's jump on to the first category, that is quick wins default. This means that these are the quick wins features which are defaulted into the Oracle system and users don't need to enable anything in the system to use it. The first feature is the common feature, that is service excellence continuing investments. This work is based on monitoring performance needs, trends, reviewing common use patterns by Oracle, and analyzing those and putting in into these 3 parameters, that is usability, performance, and resiliency. If we see the first category, that is usability, in this feature, submit synchronized transaction workflow status process for a specific workflow by selecting either invoice approval or journal approval. User can select the records for the selected workflow only. They have improved the performance of the receivables aging by general ledger account report by generating the aging data and populating the extract tables. Also improved the performance of import auto invoice and create receivables accounting process along with the budgetary control validation engines. If we move on to resiliency, in this release, user can select a recovery option for stuck transactions using the synchronized transaction workflow status with the file upload option. Now the user can either withdraw or force approve and upload it when submitting the process. It is important to note that force approve action is only available if this particular profile option is created and set. Moving on to the second feature, budgetary control. Budgetary control validation of journal entries only during month end. This feature allows the users to limit budgetary control validation to journal entries when the budget period status is set to close pending. This means they can prevent the budgetary control validation of the subledger transactions after the close pending status is set. As you can see in the snapshot given, user can set the budget period status to close pending on the edit budget period statuses page to prevent the consumption of budget funds available balance by the subledger transactions while completing the month-end or year-end close tasks. This is a high impact level feature, which is a quick win. It is important to consider that the transactions fail budgetary control validation with the status of budget period not open for control budget. Those transactions could be all subledger transactions which are enabled for budgetary control except for the final close action on a PO or the budget import of initial budget amounts. They will get the error as shown in this snapshot. It is also important to consider that following transactions pass the budgetary control validations, which are general ledger and subledger journal entries, budget import of budget adjusted amounts, and final close action on a PO including carry forward purchase order budgetary control balance process and manual final close action on a PO. Moving on to the third feature, general ledger, automated resolution of cross-validation combination violations. This feature resolves cross-validation combination violations automatically during a run of manage account combination validation rules process, wherein the user can use the include accounts with balance parameter as shown in the snapshot below in the manage account combination validations rules process to manage the automatic update of accounts with balances. When you select the resolve violation action, the manage account combination validation rules process will automatically update all the account combinations based on the recommendations in the cross validation combinations violation report. This process either disables or ends each account combination. This will benefit the business as it will improve the operational efficiency with automatic updates to account combination end dates and the enabled indicator based on the recommendations from cross-validation combination violation report. This will reduce the effort to validate and move the balances from one account to the other before disabling the accounts. Moving on to the fourth feature, intercompany. Tax calculation for intercompany invoices based on first-party tax registration number. User can associate the first-party tax transaction registration number with the intercompany organization and pass the number as an attribute to the subledger for intercompany transaction tax calculations. They can now select the legal reporting unit and applicable tax registration number on the Manage Intercompany Organization Setup user interface as shown in the snapshot below. They can search for and select the applicable intercompany organization and the legal entity, and then select the associated legal reporting unit and tax registration number, after which the system will automatically calculate the taxes on the related intercompany transactions created and transferred to receivables. This will benefit the business as it will reduce manual entry of tax parameters in the subledger for correct tax calculations, also reducing the processing time for intercompany invoices. Moving on to the fifth feature, SUBLEDGER accounting, SUBLEDGER journal description language configuration. This feature has enabled the user to configure the display of SUBLEDGER journal description to use either the journal language set for the ledger or the user session language. The journal language list of values in the SUBLEDGER accounting section of the specify ledger option will include value user session language in addition to the languages installed. Here it is important to note that once the subledger journal entry is created in the final status, the descriptions cannot be translated in a different language. So whenever the other users review the subledger journals, they may see the journal description in a different language than their own session language. As shown in the snapshot given, here you can see that the user session language is included in the journal language LOV with other languages. This will support the organizations that require multiple official languages and will provide translation of SUBLEDGER journal entry descriptions in the language selected by the user for the current application session. Moving on to the sixth feature, expenses. Payment method selection in cash advance request. This is an Idea Lab feature, which means customer requested this in an Idea Lab and Oracle has provided this feature in this 23B release. This will allow the employees to select a cash advance payment method, and this option allows the employees to select their preferred payment method as a part of the cash advance request process. They can enable the payment method selection as yes, and this option will be configurable at the business unit level and thus can be enabled for all the business units or for individual business units. It is important to note that if the enable payment method in the option manage cash advance and authorization policy is set to no, then the default payment method for the business unit will apply to all the cash advances raised by employees assigned to that business unit. This feature gives employees the flexibility to select the payment method through which they would like to get their cash advance credited to them. Moving on to the seventh feature, expenses, waypoints in audit and view expense report pages. This feature allows to view the waypoints and routes for mileage expenses in the audit expense report and view expense report pages. This will let the auditors and managers view the complete route information for mileage expenses and ensure the compliance with all the regulations. Auditors can now review the interim stops of a mileage expense trip directly from the View Expense Item page by clicking the View Maps button as shown in the snapshot below. This will help companies to configure the expense report approval notification to provide the route visibility to all the managers. It also allows better insight into the policy compliance on mileage expenses, and it will be readily available route details allows auditors and managers to process the mileage expenses more efficiently and effectively as they do not have to look for them outside the system. Moving on to the eighth feature, payables. Matching of invoices with purchase order lines with supplier credit from supplier portal. Let me inform you that this is also an Idea Lab feature. This feature allows us to match invoices to trade-ins and discounts on the purchase order from the supplier portal itself. For example, if a buyer trades in older equipment when purchasing a new equipment, the value of the equipment traded in is created as a negative line on the PO. This will match the invoice to negative lines in the PO to record the supplier credit. In earlier updates, however, it was available through import payables invoice process. But in 23B, suppliers can create the invoices matched to negative purchase order lines from the supplier portal itself. It is important to consider that supplier portal invoices cannot have combination of negative and positive amount lines. Invoice lines matched to negative PO lines must be created as credit memos and not invoice lines. Reversal of previously matched PO lines are created as positive amount lines and must be created in standard invoices. This will benefit the business in matching the invoice lines separately to the item lines, and supplier credit on the PO ensures that an invoice reflects the cost of the item accurately. Moving on to the ninth feature, maturity date parameter increment for update matured bills payable status schedule runs. This feature automatically increments the maturity date parameter of the update matured bills payable status process based on the scheduled frequency. Therefore, the users do not need to manually set the frequency. Payable supervisors can use this option to schedule the process for the desired frequency without manual intervention. This feature will let the payable users, supervisors, and managers schedule the update matured bills payable status job to run for defined frequency intervals. The key parameter for scheduling the job run's maturity dates will increment automatically with every run. This will eliminate all the manual intervention for incrementing the date parameter for scheduled runs. Moving on to the 10th feature, payments, automatic resumption of payment process request after payment approval. This feature allows automatic resumption of payment process request after payment approval, refers to the automatic process of allowing a transaction to proceed after payment approval has been received. Previously, a manual step was required to resume the payment processing after the payment approval. Now, once the payment has been approved, the auto resumption process will allow the transaction to proceed automatically without any manual intervention. This will improve the payment process and ensures transactions are completed in a timely and efficient manner. This feature will automate the process of resuming payments without manual intervention, moving seamlessly to the next steps in the payment process, such as updating the status of the order or sending confirmation emails, and reducing the risk of late or missed payments. The next feature is assets, file-based data import for evaluation of fixed assets. This feature allows the users to use the fixed asset evaluation import template to upload a high volume of fixed asset evaluation transactions. Users need to run the post-mast fixed asset financial transactions process to post them. To upload the FA evaluation transactions, user needs to enter the evaluation of assets using fixed asset evaluation file-based import template, upload the generated .csv file using the file export import page, and run the post-mass fixed asset financial transactions process from the scheduled process. This will help organizations to revalue a high volume of assets in one upload. This is a high impact level feature with a quick win. The next feature is assets invoice accounting date display for lines transferred from payables to fixed assets. This is an Idea Lab feature again. This includes the accounting date in the display of payables invoice lines in the additional info tile of the assets landing page and prepare source lines page. This provides immediate view of the accounting date without drilling down to the invoice details so that the user doesn't need to get to the AP invoice page. This will allow sorting and filtering the pending asset addition invoices by invoice date and process them in correct asset book period. It will make available payables invoices accounting dates in one location on the assets landing page. Moving on to the 13th feature, revenue management. Usability improvements for handling complex performance obligations identification templates. This feature provides additional capabilities to performance obligation templates, such as duplicating existing performance obligation templates, exempting obligation from allocation, and searching the templates based on items or memo lines. The improvements allow users to easily create the copies of the templates and make available additional modeling capabilities by enabling users to flag a performance obligation template as exempt from allocation, apply a default classification value in the template that is assigned to the performance obligation at creation, duplicate an existing template to add or remove items, and end date templates no longer valid for performance obligation identification. This feature requires configuration and is a quick win. The points to consider here are: once a performance obligation template is in use, the same restrictions for the performance obligation identification rule apply. There is no change to the existing identify customer contracts process evaluation logic or processing sequence when processing templates to group source document lines into performance obligations, except when considering which templates are eligible for consideration and use. The template should be eligible for consideration when the performance obligation template has an effective start date that's later than the revenue management accounting contract date and earlier or equal to the template's effective end date. The enable field should be yes. When performance obligations are re-identified while performing material contract modifications, the application will apply the template in use at the time of original contract creation, even if the template was subsequently end-dated or disabled. If the user wants to apply a new performance obligation template, they must first discard the original contract using the discard customer contracts process. When the performance obligations are re-identified, the application uses the current set of enabled and active templates. Moving on to the next category, that is quick wins, which are opt-ins. So user needs to enable this in order to use the feature. General ledger revaluation in reporting currency ledger of account balances denominated in reporting currency. This feature allows to revalue the account balances in the reporting currency ledger when the entered currency is the same as the reporting ledger currency. This method of using revaluation to adjust the balances of a journal or subledger level reporting currency does differ from using the translation method of generating translated balances or using a balance level reporting currency. Please note that organization's CAO must consent to this currency treatment before performing any revaluation in the journal or subledger reporting currency for this purpose. This allows business to flexibly maintain reporting currencies at the detailed transactional level with the ability to adjust using the revaluation process to reconcile these to a balance level reporting currency. Moving on to the next feature, payables, automatic re-evaluation and release of duplicate invoice holds. This is an Idea Lab feature again. This feature automatically re-evaluates duplicate invoices hold conditions and releases a duplicate invoice hold during invoice validation. This will let the users avoid manually releasing a duplicate hold after making the necessary updates to an invoice, which reduces the user efforts. The feature does not place a new duplicate invoice hold on an invoice if it is duplicate of another invoice. This feature needs to be enabled from Manage Invoice option, Invoice Entry. It is important to consider that this option is not enabled by default, and you don't need to manually release the duplicate invoices hold after making the necessary changes to address the duplicate issue. Moving on to the next feature, payables, performance evaluation reports for intelligent account combination defaulting. This feature allows us to download and review an evaluation report that details the potential performance of the intelligent account combination defaulting feature. The evaluation report will contain the promotion code that users need to enter for feature opt-in to be activated. The model's performance is evaluated using a set of generic assumptions, and the performance of the model will change with time. You can see the example of the report on the screen. Moving on to the next feature, advanced collection, collector update of invoice attributes and contacts in collections. This feature allows the collectors to update the purchase order information, user comments, line level descriptions, and contact information on invoices using the advanced collection pages rather than receivables pages. The advanced collection pages include two additional updatable fields at the transaction line level to display the comments and translated descriptions for improved efficiency. This will improve the collection efficiency by allowing the collectors to make updates directly in the advanced collection pages rather than visiting the receivables pages. Moving on to the next feature, lease accounting, short-term and long-term lease liability accounting. This feature helps us automatically account for short-term and long-term lease liability. The IFRS 16 and ASC 842 accounting standards require separating the lease liability into short-term and long-term for disclosure reporting. As we know, the short-term is the liability within the next 12 months and the long-term is the liability due after the 12 months. This will simplify the compliance with IFRS 16 and ASC 842 lease accounting for short-term and long-term liability, and this feature can increase the efficiency and reduce the risk of manual errors with automated month-end processes. Moving on to the next category, these are the default features which are not quick win as they require more configurations or regression testing. This is a common feature, simplified workflow rules configuration. This feature allows the users to use the simplified workflow rules configuration to create workflow rules using spreadsheets for payable invoice approval and general ledger journal approval workflows. Users can download the templates using the Manage Workflow Rules in Spreadsheet task to create and manage workflow rules according to your approval policies. This feature was introduced in Update 18C. However, 23B update also lets you do the following. Name the rule blocks for organizing and ease of understanding, initiate various approvals in parallel, and configure or model the blocks to facilitate better approval routing. Naming rule blocks can help to organize the approval process and make it easier for users to understand and navigate, as users can clearly see the purpose and function of each block. Rule block configuration can increase the accuracy of decisions made during the approval process, as it is easier to track the flow of approvals. This can benefit the business, as naming rule blocks can help to organize the approval process and makes it easier for the users to understand and navigate. They have the ability to ensure that each participant has reviewed and approved the item before it moves on to the next stage of the process, and a greater number of participants can be involved in the approval process simultaneously, as different participants may have different areas of expertise. Moving on to the next feature, budgetary control, cash budget funding with receivables receipts. This is an important feature as it is both in budgetary control module as well as receivables module. This feature allows users to use the receivables receipts to fund the cash control budget as receipts are processed. The receipt fund status indicates the budgetary control validation status. Receipts with a passed status funds the cash budget, and with a failed needs to be reprocessed. User can select the receivables receipt funds the cash budget setting on the edit budgetary control and encumbrance accounting page as shown in the snapshot to enable the budgetary control of the receipts. It is important to note that this setting only applies to ledgers with business units enabled for multi-fund accounting. This helps business as cash collected for revenue is immediately available for spending when a standard receipt is applied to an invoice or a miscellaneous receipt is created. If not using the cash control budgets for payments, users can select the cash controls on the edit budget control and encumbrance accounting page. Moving on to the next feature, revenue management, revenue recognition for subscriptions originated from order management and managed by subscription management. This feature automates revenue recognition to address IFRS 15 and ASC 606 for integrated subscription that originates from order management and are managed by subscription management. Integrated data includes sales orders involving services and subscription services, fulfillment data, and sales invoices. This feature helps as it automatically calculates the expected consideration from the sale and allocate the transaction price of the contract based on the relative allocation method to each distinct performance obligation such as service and subscription. It also records the receivables balance by billed amount, apply the billing lines generated in receivables to the accounting contracts in revenue management, and to offset the corresponding contract asset balance. Moving on to the next feature, revenue management, revenue recognition upon fulfillment of additional events. This feature helps us to recognize revenue conditionally after fulfillment of additional events like customer acceptance, proof of delivery, and payment received. User can configure the rules to define additional events based on conditions. It is important to note that revenue will be recognized only after the primary satisfaction event and all the additional satisfaction events of a promise are fulfilled. An additional satisfaction event is assigned to the obligations based on the configurations of the additional satisfaction event rules, and the fulfillment of the additional satisfaction events can be imported through revenue-based data import FBDI. This feature enables business to recognize revenue when both the primary and additional satisfaction events of a performance obligation are fulfilled based on your policies, reflecting the ASC 606 and IFRS 15 accounting standards. The additional satisfaction event rules are as below. Name additional satisfaction event, which means additional satisfaction event type, either customer acceptance, proof of delivery, or payment. Basis for fulfillment date. Specify the basis for the fulfillment date in the case of automatic fulfillment of an additional satisfaction event. User can choose from contract date, first fulfillment date, or fully satisfied date. Days after basis date. Number of days from the basis for fulfillment date when the additional satisfaction event is considered to be fulfilled. And last one is priority. Processing priority of the event rule. The lowest numeric value takes priority. All the additional satisfaction event rules are placed in the snapshot below. Let's move on to the last category, that is opt-in, which are not quick wins. From General Ledger module, security access segregation of import journals from file-based data import process for journals. This feature provides the option to restrict the combined use of the import journals process and the load interface file for import process for FBDI journals users. Some organizations use different users to import data from external integrations using FBDI to run the create accounting process or to create journals using ADFDI. But they are not able to segregate the different functions using the existing privileges. So this feature helps in segregating those functions without the privileges. It should be noted that you should enable this feature if you are seeking to prevent access to the General Ledger import journals process using FBDI by the users who need to submit the import journals for other purposes. The import journals process using FBDI is typically utilized for automated journal import with mass volume of data coming from external sources. The run import journals program without FBDI access and post SUBLEDGER journal entry to General Ledger no journal import access for FBDI privileges will not disrupt the user's ability to continue using import journals with processes such as create accounting and ADFDI GL journal creation. Users will continue to be able to use FBDI for processes other than import journals and successfully run the load interface file for import program with processes like import bank statements from a spreadsheet and import auto invoice. This will help business to prevent the interruptions in FBDI journal import procedures that are reserved for automated and mass volume imports. It will also ensure that the users not authorized to use the import journal process with FBDI are still able to submit other general ledger and subledger accounting processes. Such users can also still be allowed to carry out other FBDI related processes besides import journals, such as import bank statements from a spreadsheet and import auto invoice. Thank you, everyone. That was my part. I would like to hand over the stage to Komal for further procedures.
Thank you, Akshata. It was a very crisp and a wonderful PPT. Thank you for insights. Before we move to question and answer, with the help of a quick poll, we would quickly like to note down your area of interest in order to organize future webinars with more value-based content. So here is the poll. Let us know your area of interest. Whether it is managed services, innovation technologies, VBA and data masking, cloud transformation. Please do let us know your area of interest. We would request you all to please participate. Thank you all for participation. Closing the poll now. Let's quickly move towards question and answer part. Hi Isha, could you please check if we have any questions if you want to take up?
Hi Komal, we have covered all the questions.
Thank you, Isha. In next 24 hours, you will receive an email in next couple of days, wherein the presentation and session recordings would be available to you at a single click from the web page. So please do look out for an email in your inbox. There are upcoming sessions which you can check on the website. You can please register or ask your colleagues to register and be a part of webinars. Before you leave us, we would like to have a quick feedback on today's session. Launching the poll. Please do participate. Thank you all for participation. Closing the poll now. Before we move ahead, and thank you all, we would like to know, with the help of a last poll, have you attended any of previous advisory sessions? Thank you all for participating. Closing the poll now. Thank you once again Have a great day.